Fella tonight.
Okay, I think we are live streaming. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you with us tonight. There's somebody else coming in. If you want to get
Yep.
them, Ronald, it's good to have everybody with us tonight. Those of you that are listening on Power Faith Radio, it's good to have you. We did have quite a few comments on Power Faith Radio this week, Terry, and I replayed past couple of the classes, and but it really wasn't any questions or anything I could formulate into questions. It was just people, just talking. The world is full of people that just talk. Do you know anybody that just talks all the time? We're not going to include me in that subject, but okay. So anyway, but anyway, there was nothing really to formulate a question, but it's good to have all of you listening through Power Faith Radio tonight. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, we thank you so much. You can come on into the Zoom room. If you'll go over to A Simple Walk Facebook page, there you'll find the Zoom room link, and you can just come on in and join us here live. But we appreciate you however the avenue that you watch it. While you're there on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to that channel, hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. And you can always send questions into Outreach Noah. Just send it to outreachnoah@gmail.com, and we will go through those and get those up. How you doing, Terry?
Doing good.
Okay, you want to greet everybody in the Zoom room? Did I cover everything?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Do you want to greet everybody?
Except from where you're broadcasting from.
I'm broadcasting from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee.
There you go.
So my wife
you hadn't done that in a while, so
I know my wife does that better. She's got this. Let's see if I can find her. And I don't know if you'll even hear this or not. I don't know if it will even. Is that it? Is it going to play? No. Okay. Go ahead, Terry. Oh, I had it on the wrong one. I'm glad that didn't play because that was something else. So here you go. Go ahead, Terry. I'm glad that didn't play now.
you getting in trouble with Mama.
Yeah, that was thunderstorms. So good.
All right. Greetings, everyone, and thank you again for joining us here at Outreach Noah for our Wednesday night class. Of course, here in the Zoom room, of course, Scotty's down in the engine room. We got Ronald and Bob's with us tonight. Nancy and Veronica and Joanne is here with us tonight. And tonight we're going to continue on into our journey into Genesis. I know it seems like we're taking it slow, but yep, we're taking it slow. We're going to be covering the fourth night tonight, God willing, and discuss a few things about the fourth night that reveals some interesting information toward the end of the passages there that we'll get into here just a little bit later. Scotty, you about ready?
My computer is doing some crazy things right now. I don't know what it's doing. I do not see anybody. I have a black screen. Am I there?
You're here. You're here with us.
Okay. I'm glad. I'm just looking out. Oh, wait a minute, y'all. My computer's rebooting right in the middle of class. I'm back up now. I see everybody now. I'm ready, Terry.
All right. Well, you didn't go anywhere.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, we're ready. And
well, they say to err is human, but to really, really mess up is to have a computer.
I resemble that remark. So we'll get right into our Tzedakah time tonight. We appreciate everybody who has participated in our Tzedakah time, and had somebody participate just as we opened up, and I didn't get over there and look yet, but I will, and we appreciate it. So we're going to start off, as always, we give a tzedakah for Terry and I's main teacher, Pesach and Shira Sherbo, and they live in Sfat, Israel. And then also we have, when I thought I wrote Andrew's dad down here.
Albert overall. Albert.
Well,
I just call him. He goes by Al. But
Okay, I just wrote Mr. Overall, and I thought, well, I thought I wrote his name down. So Albert, and then I also I thought we would have Andrew in that Sadaka time as well.
yeah,
Also, we have Gary Heath on our Sadaka list tonight. Gary Heath, he's new on the list, and of course, as always, for the next little while, we've got Nadine Akins and Christina Hall. We still have Christina Hall on our Sadaka list tonight. Pamela Steffi. So I think I asked you last week, Veronica, how Pamela's doing. She's still in recovery.
Well, she's basically healed.
Great.
So like I said, you can go ahead and take her off your off the list.
Well, we'll make this a Thanksgiving Sadaka then. A Thanksgiving right there for that. And then Chrissy Seaton, we still got her there. How's Chrissy doing, Ronald? I know every time I hear her or see her, it looks like she's gaining a lot of strength.
Yeah, she is, and she's quite enjoying herself, and she's getting more involved again, back with our ladies group meetings of the weekend, and we're going through the 7 gates of righteous knowledge, and she's really good with that and taking the lead role in those meetings at the moment. So yeah, she's
Great. Also, we've got Janice Brandon on our Sadaka list tonight, and Harlene Hool. We talked to Harlene today, matter of fact, and she had a stroke a little while back, but she's recovering well. Also, we got Wendell and Mary Parsons on our Sadaka list tonight, and somebody always sends in something for Amuela Asher. She's not here tonight, Amuela, and then along with that, they send in a Sadaka for Veronica Port and Thomas Shoust as well. And Thomas isn't here tonight, so we'll check in on those folks later. And then Ronald, you and your sister, I've still got, you want to tell us about your sister?
There's nothing new to add at the moment. She's got an appointment upcoming, and we'll have to wait and see what results out of that.
Okay. And I trust that you're doing well, Ronald. You look better every time I see you.
Yeah, I've been quite good of late. I'm still waiting for my appointment, but it's not so crucial at the moment. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, great. We got Tina Lyons on our Sadaka list tonight. And then on our Blessed Memory Sadaka list tonight, we got Peggy Logan on our Blessed Memory. We're giving this for their merit. And then also, because of what Andrew's going through, I just felt impressed to put Nancy Overall on our Sadaka list tonight, Blessed Memory. Would you help us pray tonight? Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. We ask that you have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For we know you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. You are our King. Do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, are you about ready to begin?
Oh, we'll give it the old try.
Okay, I'm going to put you on speaker view at the moment, and then we'll go from there.
All righty. Okay, like I said earlier, tonight we're going to be going through the 4th day of creation. Our sources tonight, I've got 3 sources tonight. Of course, the Artscroll, Bereishis, or Genesis that I've been using a lot here. And we're going to be going through on a particular word because I like the way Rabbi Hirsch breaks down and talks about what different words mean and how they're used. So we're going to be looking at when we get to a certain place here in our text tonight. I'm going to use Rabbi Hirsch's Chumash to explain a particular word. And also we're going, with me, my Artscroll, I'm going to be using the Artscroll Ramban. Ramban's one of the great Torah teachers, sages of Israel. That's an acronym for Rabbi Moshe ben Nachmanides. He's quoted extensively throughout Torah history with Israel, with among many of the other Torah sages. And I'm going to go through a couple of sections. We're going to cover some of it almost kind of twice, a little bit in this one source. And then I'm going to jump over to the Ramban and cover what he teaches on it, because he always brings a real good insight. And we've got a passage that's coming up here in a couple of weeks that he brings some really, really good insight on one particular passage that's misunderstood and misinterpreted real heavily. And when we get to that, I'm going to look forward to going through that with everyone, because actually it connects with the fifth day. We'll go through the fifth day, but then when we get to that other passage, and we're going to be coming back to the fifth day again and looking at it and what how the Ramban explains a specific misinterpreted passage in a really, really interesting way. But tonight we're going to be looking at, like I said, the fourth day. It's going to be beginning in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, and going to go through verse, I believe it is 19. And Scotty, like you said, we didn't have any questions or anything from last week before I get started. Nothing. We're good already. Always remember, you feel free to get Scotty any questions, comments. Like I said, you can use outreachnoah@gmail.com to contact us with. Also on our YouTube channel and also on our Facebook page at A Simple Walk on Facebook, A Simple Walk. Okay, beginning in verse 14, it says, "Let there be luminaries." In the Hebrew, that is Yahiyah Ma'or Ot. They are, in Ma'or Ot, actually, literal translation is lights. Let there be lights is the more literal translation. Luminaries, I guess, is an old English form for lights. But in, I guess, you want in simplicity, you can say that in verse 14 starts out, says, "Let there be lights." So they had already been created on the first day, but were not suspended in the firmament until the fourth day. All the potentials, it says in verse 1, where it says, "In the heavens and the earth," it says, all the potentials of heaven and earth were created on the first day, but each was only established on the day it was so commanded. So as we've been learning, as we go through the days, there are certain things that God commanded that he put in place in each day. And we explained, like on the third day with the establishment of the law of kind and species. And it was ordained, it was established on that day. And now on the fourth day, God brought the potentials of heaven and earth, and he begins to set things in their place. Again, he commands places like light, when he commanded light and he commanded darkness, that they would be established, that light would be established to the day and the darkness would be established to the night. And they were commanded and they were set in place. And so tonight we're going to be learning about these other things that are going to be set in place. And it says, the other Torah commentators also note that the use of the singular word, the word that's translated "let there be," is singular instead of plural, which would be a consonant with the plural object of lights, as lights are plural. the Rashbam and Ibn Ezra and Radak, the other Torah sages, note that it is not unusual for Scripture to intermix numbers and gender. And we're talking about, feminine and masculine words, and as far as linguistics go. It says, according to Rabbeinu Bakia, the singular form is used because only the sun of the two luminaries gives forth its own light. The moon only reflects. The moon only reflects. So the origin of the word lights, the Hebrew word for lights or luminaries, is derived from the or, which we've already heard about at the beginning, in verses 2. It says when they said, "Let there be light." But it says that luminary is derived from the word just light, indicating that they possessed no independent light. They were like windows that transmitted a portion of the primeval light which had been hidden from view by the firmament. We're going to see that's going to be brought back up when we get over here to the Ramban. This follows, like I said, the Ramban, who elaborates that the firmament created on the second day obscured the primeval light. The one where God said, "Let there be light." There was a primeval light that had shone. And thus on the third day, the earth was dark until the luminaries in the firmament illuminated the earth on the fourth day. And we're going to see all of that and everything that we cover tonight. And so this is the meaning of verse 17 when we get to it. In the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, for light did not exist above the firmament, but for light did exist above the firmament, but it did not illuminate the earth. When the firmament was set in place, it did not illuminate the earth. However, the comments that the primeval light functioned for 3 days, and we're going to see that again here in a minute, for 3 days, and on the fourth day, the two luminaries were formed. Thus, the light served as a permanent regulators of the distinction between day and night that was laid down in verses 4 and 5. For until now, in the absence of the sun and the moon, because this is a lot of, people discuss these things, how did the earth have light, and different things going on when the earth, when the sun wasn't created yet. So we're seeing here that the Torah says for until now, in the absence of the sun and moon, there was light during the day and darkness at night. It says, now he decreed that there will be a luminary, a light itself for each of them. The greater luminary to serve the day and the lesser to serve the night. And it is meant by separation. That they separated the day and the night with each of these two lights, the sun and the moon. Of course, the moon doesn't generate a light on its own. It's only reflecting the light from the sun. It says, and there they shall serve as signs. And this is interesting because it's going to get into a part here. It says, these signs, which in Hebrew is ot, also translated in English as omens, which omens can be good or bad. It says, for when the lights are eclipsed, it is an ill omen for the world, as in verse Jeremiah 10:2. Be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. When you comply with the will of God, you need not worry about punishment. When you comply. That statement right there alone is a class. When you comply with the will of God, you need not worry about punishment. That's from Rashi, the great Torah teacher. We can see some understanding in that passage when we understand that when we get to the rainbow, which is going to be quite a ways down the road, but the rainbow is a sign that should direct us to repentance. And we'll learn about that when we get there. And it kind of goes with this. But when you comply with the will of God, you need not worry about punishment. There are many such verses in scriptures that alludes to the heavenly bodies as omens. For example, in Hezekiah, in 2 Kings 29, the sign shall you have, the shadow shall go back 10 degrees. Thus the moon was the sign in Joel 3:3, and I will exhibit wonders in the heavens and the earth. According to many of the Torah teachers and sages of Israel, the signs refers to the lights or the luminaries functioning as man's guide, as navigational aids. Asim comments, they are signs of God's greatness in two ways. They are constant signs and symbols of his omnipotence, as in the verse of Isaiah 40:26 says, lift up your eyes on high and behold who has created these things. And two, they sometimes diverge from the natural courses to comply with his will, as when the sun stopped for Joshua. And as a guide to determine festivals. We'll see this as his time to serve as signs, like up here in verse 14. It says, and they shall serve as signs and for festivals and for days and for years. And for festivals. Now, festivals, this word here for festival, or for festivals, because it has the mem in front of it, is having one of those 60 moments there where it goes right off top of my head. Ma'oidin. Now there we go. I got it. You got to set Ma'oidin. And we're going to see something here from the RAMBAN when he talks about Ma'oidin, the festivals. This is an anticipation of the future when Israel would be commanded to regulate the festivals by lunar calculation. When I first started getting into my path of the Hebrew scriptures, nearly 20 years ago, around 2002, I started. It was a little later in that I started learning that the sages, because the Torah was given to Israel, wasn't given to the nations. It was given to Israel. The Torah is their property. They have the only right to interpret it in the way God tells them the way it is, and the way He wants them to follow His will. But right here is, they've always said, well, the Torah in the creation week brings up Israel from the beginning. Israel's was planned from actually day one. And so I always wondered how that could be. And it's right here in the word festivals in verse 14. And it says that, and God said, let there be the luminaries in the firmament of the heavens to separate between day and night, and they shall serve as signs and for festivals and for days and years. The word festivals here points to the nation of Israel. And this is how, because the word Moedim, and again, we didn't learn this in our upbringing, because we learned from English translation. We learned from people who interpret the scriptures who didn't know what it actually meant. And I'm just going to be honest with you. There's so much that we were taught. And now that when we come back and we look at the Hebrew and we look at these words and we look at what the sages of Israel have said for almost 3,400 years, we start seeing what the Creator has said. So in saying this word, that these luminaries would separate for festivals, the Moedim. The Moedim derived from the root meaning to decide upon a meeting, to set a time and a place for a meeting. Thus, the Moedim are sacred times designated by God and Israel at which to meet with God. So the Moedim here is God saying that these lights will separate the meeting times with me. Indeed, the heavenly bodies that are cast upon the earth are now signs and also Moedim. They are signs, but they are also pointing to times of sacred meetings with God. They are signs for mankind in general. The view of the starry heavens, the regular phases of light of the moon, and above all, the course of the sun regulate all the life on earth. All of these tell of God's glory from the heavens. Without speech or without words, they express his praise. Psalms 19. They beckon to man and they waken his heart to the awareness of God, of the Most High, all over the earth, and they proclaim there is a God. So the luminaries themselves and the signs of these luminaries proclaim that there is a God. And the Moedim declares there are sacred times to meet with God. What we find out here, though, for nearly 26 generations from the time of creation of man, that God does not command a meeting with him in any command until we get to Abraham and his sons Isaac and Jacob and their descendants. That one line from Abraham in Leviticus chapter 23 receives the Moedim, the festivals. And so all of these non-Jews out here running around saying, well, we need to observe the Sabbath and the holidays and all of that. No, they were not given to mankind. God did not give he says these signs will be for festivals on the fourth day, but he did not give the commands of the meetings until he did through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants in that one line of Abraham. All of Abraham's children were not, quote, Jewish, as we call them today. They were of the nations. They became, that's the reason why Abraham became the father of many nations. One of the nations that he fathered was Israel. And in that one line, they received the sacred times. And so we see this here in the fourth day, that God is setting forth the Moedim, the signs of sacred times, but he doesn't give them to man. There's no command until later on. So I know, Scotty, I probably ruffled a few little feathers there, but that's what the text renders. There are no commandments for Moedim. God says these Moedim are there. They've been there since the fourth day, but they weren't given as commands until Israel was established. And the lineage of Israel through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the forefathers of Israel. Now I want to jump over to the Ramban, kind of go through the same verses a little bit, but through the Ramban. Let's see here, verse 14 again, since we've been there. And let there be the luminaries again, the lights. And as it is stated, the light was created on the first day in verse 3. Why then, and I like this because there's some questions that comes along this way. So why then was there a need for these lights if light was created on the first day? The Ramban explains, says, now the light was created on the first day, and it was shown upon the and shone upon the elements of the earth. But when the firmament was made on the second day, it obstructed the light and prevented it from shining on the lower elements. Thus, when the land was created on the third day, there was darkness and not light in it. And now on the fourth day, the Holy One, blessed be he, desires that there should be lights in the firmament whose light would reach the earth. So this is the meaning of the statement, in the firmament of the heavens to shine upon the earth, in verse 15. For the original light was above the firmament and did not shine down upon the earth. It says, having explained the need of these new luminaries, the RAMBAN now explains what happened to the old light from the first day. And he goes on and says, the explanation, let there be the lights, is that God decreed on the first day that light should come into existence out of the primary matter of the heavens, functioning for the duration of the length of days, as has already been explained. And now he decreed that this light should take on a physical form, and that from it should come into being a body of great light that would shine by day, and another smaller light that will shine by night. And that both of them should be suspended in the firmament of the heavens, so that they would shine below on the earth. And according to the sages, the light of the first day became transformed into a physical luminary, a physical light, and ceased to exist in its original form. He goes on, he says, in the opinion of our sages, the RAMBAN says, in the opinion of our sages, those that were above him in Torah knowledge, who mentioned the hiding away and connecting with the original light, rather accordingly, the original light functioned for the first 3 days. It functioned for the first 3 days, and then it was transformed into the two luminaries that would shine during the day and during the night. Make sure I don't go too far here. Yep. All right. Scotty, anything before I continue on? Okay.
Okay. I do have something to throw in here that's probably going to not on what you're reading, but I just saw, and I think it's of importance, or I wouldn't bring it over the top of your teaching, Terry, but I did see where Andrew posted a great update. They're home from the hospital, and they did not find anything.
Praise God.
So if y'all want to find the full thing, what Andrew put on there, you can go over to, but they're home, and the doctors didn't find anything, and everything's good.
Right. Praise God.
So I just want to throw that in there real quick.
See, did he make that announcement on NOG?
Yes.
On Noahide Online Gathering, or NOG, on Facebook. I think it's still an open group. It's one, Nancy, his mother, started it many years ago. Matter of fact, many of us from years ago, that's where we met. Like Scotty and I met there.
Yeah.
And Andrew is an amazing guy. Him and Jacob, and whom Scotty and I met through that group. They're our, quote, kind of elders, non-Jewish elders. When we have questions that doesn't really need to go up the chain to our teachers, we call on Jacob and Andrew. And I get to meet with Andrew. I try to almost every Sunday, as when the NOG group, when Nancy started. Andrew still holds it open, and two great men. And I'm so glad to hear this for Andrew, because it would have been hard. It would have been hard. So just some things that's been going on, or it's going on over the last year. You know, Jacob and Andrew moved, or Abby moved to Houston, so they're no longer up there. So I'm glad. And I just talked to Al Sunday too. That he was doing really good Sunday. So when I saw that post the other night, that it's probably an aneurysm, because that's what happened to my grandpa. It happened to him in his sleep, and it did burst. And so I was definitely praying for Andrew and Al. Thank y'all for all y'all's prayers too. Y'all just been praying for Andrew and Al.
Okay.
That's remember, we need to give some Thanksgiving and tzedakah for that as well. Right, good report. And so as God made and set them, verses 16 through 17, I'm going to continue with the RAMBAN. And he says, this God set them teaches us that these lights did not come into being from the firmament itself. Rather, they are extrinsic physical bodies attached to it. He created these lights, and he set them in place, but they did not come from the firmament. But he set them and he attached them to the firmament to dominate by day and by night. And it says this concept of dominion of the lights includes something else, not just the lights or the functions as givers of light, but as previously mentioned, it includes what Scripture says earlier, and that they shall serve as signs and for seasons, and they shall dominate or they shall have dominion in the earth through the changes that they bring about, and dominion through the coming into being and demise of all the lowly beings on earth. For the sun, in its dominion during the day, causes sprouting and birth and growth in all the warmth and the dry entities. And the moon, in its dominion, causes abundance in springs and seas, in all the wet and the cool entities. And that is why it is said with generality, and to dominate by day and night, for they have the dominion over the lowly beings of the earth. Sure, there's nothing else. I thought, when you really read what the RAMBAN is saying there, that they have the dominion, and how the sun brings forth. You imagine, like in the spring days, and when those dark gray clouds of winter is fading away, and the beautiful, sunny skies of spring and coming in, and then the clouds brings the rain in, and then we see that the sun, as it is shining, it's bringing life outside of the earth. Out of the earth through the seeds and the pods that are coming, bringing the buds on the trees and the flowers that are coming out in that warmth of the sun and its dominion over the earth at that season. That these luminaries, they separate between not only day and night, but they also separate between the seasons, and how they operate during each season, and how the sun on one side of the earth is bringing forth, the spring and life, and on the other side, the fall's going through, and a lot of times the sun is covered up with the clouds of fall in the winter as things are dying back. But yet on the other side of the earth, it's their time for spring, like Ronald. It's funny because we talk with Ronald. He's in Australia. When we're going into spring, he's going into fall and winter, aren't you? And so it's really neat to see how the operation of these lights do what they do on the different hemispheres of the earth, and how they have dominion over the earth and control what is going on. Just making sure I didn't leave anything out over here. Yeah, because like in verse 17 here in the Artscroll, says, and he put them in their fixed orbits, meaning that he appointed them for a fixed role. This is where God commands them. When he sets them in their place, he's giving them their command, like he did for the light of the day and the darkness of night that we talked about in previous weeks. It says, and to make a distinction between day and between light and darkness. Like it says, he goes on. The RAMBAN says the light mentioned here, and to make a distinction between the light and the darkness. It makes a distinction between the light and the darkness. And the RAMBAN says, and the light mentioned here refers to the day, and the darkness refers to the night. As it says, and God called the day light and called the darkness, he called it night, as in verse 5. To elaborate on the previous actually, Ramban compares God's command for the heavenly bodies with the description of the fulfillment of their command. So he's showing, like I was just saying, like when he commanded light, your portion is the day. That's your station. Darkness, your station is night. Now he's given the luminaries their station. He's telling us to make a distinction between light and darkness. So the sun in its place is a distinction for light, and the moon is a distinction during the darkness because it's the lesser light. And so he's giving them their command, and he's setting them forth in their duties. And so I find this very interesting here that, we talk about God establishing the laws of nature, and we're seeing this in each one of the days. As he creates something, he gives a commandment to that creation. He sets it forth in its purpose. So we see everything from day one has a purpose for the will of God. And it's going to come all the way down to when he even creates man. We'll be seeing that. And hold on here. There was make sure I didn't forget something. There's something here that, nope. I normally don't have this many sources right here, but there was just so much that was so interesting and good about this fourth day. So we have the commandment and the setting of the luminaries, setting them inside the firmament, being signs for days and seasons, and also for festivals that were to come. He set them for festivals to come. And now we're seeing he's setting the commandment for the luminaries in their job, that they will be fulfilling it forever. And so the Rambam continues on, and he says, and now throughout the account of the creation, the scriptures mentions God's command and then relates the actions that was the fulfillment of the command. Here as well, he commanded them that they shall serve as a light, or lights, plural. And the scripture relates, and God set them in the firmament to give light. It also says that in the description of the fulfillment of the command, and to dominate by day and night, meaning that one body should dominate during the day and the other should dominate during the night. It says, and the dominion corresponds to what he commanded. and they shall serve as signs for the seasons. And now the scripture relates that the dominion of the two luminaries, the two lights, are not equal. But it is necessary to make a distinction between light and darkness, between day and night. For the larger body would dominate during the day, and it will be the light, and even in those places where the sunlight does not reach directly. But shall the smaller body would dominate by night, when it will be dark. It says, except for the moon, which would light up in the night, light up night's darkness, where it shines directly. And this corresponds to the command in God, and said to make a distinction between the day and the night. That he would make a distinction between the day and the night. And then that was the fourth day. And he said it was good when he set these luminaries in their place. He gave them their commands. He gave them their instructions. Because it's interesting how, the Creator, we look at the wording here, he says, and they will serve as lights. And as we've discussed before when we've covered the subject of idolatry, that we've discussed before in the generation of Enosh, who began to worship the planets, the sun and the moon. And it all began innocently because they knew that they were servants of God, and so they felt they needed honor. And therefore, when they started serving or worshiping the servants of God, they brought idolatry upon the earth. And we can go back into that later when we get into idolatry again, but that was when the idolatry entered the earth. But the Creator said that these luminaries were servants. And servants obey their master. In this situation, the servants, the sun and the moon, only do that which God created them for. The light is his servant. Darkness is his servant. And he commanded them to hold post. Like in the military, when a soldier is a servant of the military, is given orders to defend a post. And he's given instructions what to do in that position. And that's the same thing that the Creator has done with light, with darkness. Now we see with the sun and the moon, he gives them their orders and they serve him there. Day in and day out, doing everything that the Creator set them to be and set them to do. And it doesn't just stop there. God, throughout his whole creation, he sets his creation. He sets commandments upon each creation. The sun has a commandment. The light has a commandment. The dark has a commandment. Everything God creates has commandments. Only man with his free will has tried to run from his commandments. And we can get into that a little bit later. We'll see as we get into certain passages that are coming up. Go ahead, Scotty.
I'd help unmuted. So, Joanna asked an interesting question, and within a statement as well. And also somebody else just discussed the same thing on the radio, and talking about the lights, the luminaries, as they control our seasons and gardening. Do they also have an effect on our emotions, emotional well-being, and the various things that happen to us through life? Kind of astrology type stuff, yet we have the free will to handle those things.
Right. Yes, they do have. There are certain aspects of it that does, yeah, because they dominate over the creation. They affect, and it's easy when things are, for the most part. Let's say when spring comes, we see a lot of joy and happiness. People are beginning to cheer up. We see in the fall and the winter, a lot of times there's depression because of the darkness, because of the cold, because of the lack of light. That's not as much there as it is during, the spring and the summer seasons. And so, yes, they do have an effect on us. And I know, like when the seasons change, because of barometric pressures, man, messes with my sinuses. And believe me, that messes with the emotions.
So your leaves fall.
Huh?
So your leaves fall during the fall.
Yeah, my leaves fall during the fall. But yes,
that is correct.
There are effects, on humanity. I mean, that's just the God set that forth there. When we're not going to get complex, we might get on into Genesis 18 up in a little bit, but when God brought Abraham out and told him to look up into the skies. See, Abraham knew how to read the stars. That's why he knew that he would not have children. And this is the teaching of the sages of Torah. That he knew that he would not have teaching because he knew there's nothing wrong with that. There is a proper, quote, astrology that is biblically correct. It's the wickedness always comes in and distorts truth.
Yep.
There's truth in wickedness, but it's a distorted truth. And so the sages teaches us when God take Abraham out, he says, look up the stars. When Abraham did, he saw he was barren, no children. But God at that moment, at that time, and this is the sages of Israel, told Abraham that your children will be as the stars, meaning when he chose Abraham to bring forth the holy nation of Israel, they are no longer under the sway of the powers of the heavenly bodies that he placed in part. The rest of mankind still has somewhat of an issue, and I'm not going to get into it, that does have a play with what's in how things move around in our astrological system. But the sages tell us that when Abraham came out, he had placed Israel above creation. They do not operate in certain natural aspects that the rest of the world does because they are a priestly nation. That's the reason why they were given the festivals, why they were given certain customs, because they are in a higher plane, not in a higher plane as being haughty. He has, just like he makes the sun the greater light. The moon only reflects, but God designed the sun to be a greater light and the moon to be a lesser light. And he set them in their place and he gave them their instructions. The light always represents the goodness and the great of God, where the darkness represents evil. But yet that's where God placed the darkness. It's where God placed the light. In the same way with Israel, he placed Israel on a plane to be the priests of the nations. He took their forefather out and said, don't look into the heavens anymore. You look to me. You only look to me. And so God ordains the will of Israel. Where Israel is at right now today is by the will of God. He has purpose for them. Yes. Have they misbehaved and got scattered? Yes. But even Moses knew that before Joshua took them into the land. Moses told Joshua that they will be banished from the land. So even Moses knew that because it's all part of the will of God, part of the plan that God has. And so, yes, we still somewhat have an effect with these luminaries. But as you know, several of my rabbis and teachers have told me that when a non-Jew takes on the acceptance of the God of Israel leaves the idolatries of the world and observes the commandments that was given to him, just like the Son obeys its commandments. We have our own commandments, and we've discussed them in the past, and we'll continue to discuss them in the future. But when a non-Jew takes on the God of Israel, he converts. Conversion means change. He's not converting to Judaism. He's converting to the God of Israel, just like what Naaman said, that he would only pray to the God of Israel. When a non-Jew takes on the God of Israel and he becomes his God, he becomes his light, that he no longer falls under the effects of the luminaries that affects the nations. Because now we look to the God of Israel like Abraham did when he left idolatry. And we obey the commandments that he gave us as he's given all creations things to do. And when we do that, the sages teaches us that we become the pious of the nations. And that there is a reward for becoming pious of the nations, because we have chosen the God of Israel above all the gods that's out there in the world. And when we do that, he becomes our light. He becomes our will. And it changes our lives like it changed Abraham. We won't become the priest of Israel. Now, there are places where those of the nations can convert. And it's open for that. I mean, I studied for 7 years for that, but wasn't the plan that the Creator had for me. But there are some that do, and it's great. It's awesome. It's a total life change. I mean, very, very total. Won't get into that. But there is a great purpose for everybody that's in the nations. You don't have to be of the priesthood to be the servant of God. Matter of fact, when God was talking to the Hasatan, the adversary, he said, "Did you take a look at my servant Job? His integrity is unquestionable." He didn't say, "Hey, look, his religion's great. He's a great Christian. He's a great Muslim. He's a great Buddhist. No, God did not describe Job by a religion, by a belief, by a faith. He described Job as my servant whose integrity is unquestionable. And he was not a Jew. And yet, God had a conversation about him because of his integrity. And that's part of our roles, to do our commands and to walk with uprightness, because that's what that word in the Hebrew and in Job means. It means upright. It's an uprightness that he walked by. And so we can be servants of God, just like the sun, the moon, the stars, lightness and darkness. We can all be his servants if we choose him and choose. This is where our free will, the sun and the moon doesn't have a choice. A corn cob doesn't, a corn stalk doesn't have any choice but to produce corn. They have fixed commands that they have no free will. But we are the only part of God's creation that we are put out here. And he says, okay, here's what you need to do. Now choose. Choose life or choose death. And so that's what we learn in this creation week, that God sets every part of his creation. They each have a purpose and they each have commands that they must obey to live by for their purpose. We're the only ones that gets it with a free choice. We can choose or not choose, which we'll we'll learn more as we get into the creation of man and all on up into the conversation that God had with Cain. It explains a lot. It's really good when we get there. Go ahead, Scotty.
No, that's great. That's great. I can tell as we get on to the stage, as Andrew uses the word unpacking, as we get on the stage and unpack more of this, it's going to be quite interesting.
I love it. I mean, when I see studying from joining, the nation of Israel, which like I said, 7 years of very deep study and everything, I went into the study of Genesis. and I've been studying Genesis pretty heavy since 2016. Started buying every book up that the sages have anything to say about them, about it. And so Genesis chapter 1 through 9, 18 has some relevance for us, but definitely Genesis 1 through 9 has everything we need to know to live on this earth and walk in the will of God as the nations. The rest is commentary. And actually, the rest of the Torah is basically pointed toward Israel. I mean, it's all pointed toward Israel. But we have a major, large share of what we need to know about our part of the creation, who God made us, in those first 9 chapters. It's amazing.
All right. Terry, it's 9:00.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So
was afraid I was going to go way over because I wasn't sure with having 3 sources.
yeah, you done good. You done good. Appreciate it. And again, I want to say I done closed that window out where Andrew, but go over there to Noahide Online Gathering. Is it under NOG or Noahide Online Gathering?
It's Noahide Online Gathering.
Okay.
NOG is its abbreviation.
Okay. Go over there on the Facebook group and you'll see Andrew's post at their home. And so we
praise God.
yes, praise
I can
God.
tell in what Andrew wrote the other day, he was heavy hearted with the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'm going to bring us to a close, Terry. Okay, we thank everybody who. Now we've got a lot of commotion on the radio tonight, but it's not any questionable commotions. It's a very great teaching, a very understandable things of that nature. So we appreciate them listening and taking notes. And
thank you for hanging in. And yes, please take notes. Please take notes.
And so if you would love, we would love to see you. We'd love to see some of these folks come on over into the Zoom room. You can find the link by going to a Simple Walk Facebook page. It's a public group. Go on over there and you'll find the link. Also, you can find us on YouTube at Outreach Noah on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to that channel and hit that notification bell while you're over there. And also you can send us an email. Just send that email to outreachnoah@gmail.com. And until next week, have a good week.
Yes. See y'all later. Have a good weekend.
See y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.